Black History Month from Rome City Schools. Learn more right after this.
My college offers classes to meet my educational and career goals.
With opportunities outside of the classroom,
where the faculty know me by name.
My college can prepare me for my career.
I can earn an associate's degree and transfer credits toward my bachelor's.
My college is a top military-friendly college.
My college is affordable.
It's close to home.
My college is a state college within the university system of Georgia.
It's where excellence begins.
We are.
We are.
We are.
We are GHC, Georgia Highlands College.
Welcome to Community Watch. I'm Greg Shropshire, your host, and today we'll be talking about Black History Month, but a little bit different. We're going to talk to some people from the Rome City Schools, how they took a different approach to Black History Month and some of the things they did and how it went. So stay with us. We'll be right back with more Community Watch right after this.
Hi, may I please have an application? Thank you.
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
Okay.
Take that first step towards a better future. Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to Community Watch, and once again we're talking about Black History Month, but with a different perspective from Rome City Schools. And I'm joined today with Miss Cassie Parsons, the literacy coordinator from Rome City Schools, and one of the literacy coordinators, correct?
Yes, the literacy coordinator.
Okay, and then the illustrious, all-knowing, all-grateful Miss Esther Vaughn will be joining us as well. Thank y'all for coming to the show.
Thank you for having us.
So, I have to say that I was impressed with the idea of when we had the memo came out and the information of a different approach to Black History this month and the focus on local people, because I have a bachelor's degree in African American studies, so African American history is something I love. But I've always felt that too many of our students knew Dr. Martin Luther King, but they didn't know J.L. Vaughn. They knew Rosa Parks, but they didn't know people like Esther Vaughn, people who actually were here, has made a difference and still making a difference. And they could go in their room and a lot of kids wouldn't even know who they are. And so I was very pleased to see that a focus was being put on local people who've made history. And so where did that come from?
Well, we, just like you said, as a system, we felt like that the students at Anna K. Davey, for example, we have this beautiful brand new school, and we weren't sure that the kids actually knew who Anna K. Davey was, the person that the school was named after. So we felt like it was important that we talk to the kids and teach the kids about the importance of local people, local African Americans that made a difference in the community of Rome. And it just kind of stemmed from there. We looked at the National Black History Month theme, which was hallowed grounds, sites that were important to African Americans through history. And we kind of went from there with hallowed grounds, local living legacies for our system theme for this year.
Now, Ms. Vaughn, being local to Rome and someone who's been here for a while, I mean, because the landscape has truly changed. So when you talk about hallowed grounds, when I'm around people like the Godfather, you know, having a mentor such as him, you know, I get to hear about stories of some of the buildings and some of the things that actually existed. There was a thriving Black community here, economically as well. I mean, the Black community had things, and that's kind of all just disappeared. And so most students really don't have an idea of what existed in the Black community in terms of hallowed grounds.
And you're right, and that was one of the things, and I really appreciate you and Dr. Buck inviting me to join you on this, because when we think of local, the hub of black business was 5 Points, where the Troy's Barbecue, that area, that was the hub. But, and you see the sign with some businesses, there's some not on there, but then you had insurance companies, Pilgrim Insurance Company, Atlanta Life, I mean, businesses all around, from barbershops, shoe shops, everything. Then your restaurants, when you, or as we call then cafe, when you come on around the corner and you would see you on Spiderweb Drive, you know, people don't know. That was named Spiderweb Drive because of Spiderweb Cafe. Mr. Webb was the man who owned the Spiderweb Cafe. And then you go on around to the dentist buildings, and then on the other part, Dr. Hauser, the dentist, but then you had Dr. Bryant and his father. There was at one time a black hospital right there in that area. So there are a lot of things, and that's why when we did this, we wanted to look, and there are a lot of deceased folks who have made a tremendous difference, but we wanted to look at living legacies at this point. And we can come up later, because if we start with the deceased ones, and no disrespect to them, they've been wonderful, that could go on forever. You know, you just would never stop.
In all fairness, if you start with the deceased ones, not being funny, some of y'all that are living now, you might be deceased.
Hey, by the time you get through with it, you know, you're
because y'all are pushing up in age. I mean, yeah,
right.
So.
But we did want to look at, although there were businesses, black businesses all over Rome, we wanted to look at those businesses that were in the hub, which was 5 Points. That's what it was called.
And now when you look at 5 Points today, I doubt very seriously that not even youth, because you know I'm 44,
right?
And so I didn't grow up in that era, and I honestly thought, I used to have this question all the time: did Rome, Somerville, did this Northwest Georgia area just segregate peacefully? Did people just say desegregate peacefully? Did people just say, well, it's time to let's just do what's right? But then you find out some of the history. You did have marches, you did have things like that, and there were people who were actively involved. And so that history has really been lost to a lot of us, and that's why I was so impressed and excited about the program, because not just from a class perspective, or because you can sometimes get great projects in a class, but it was a system-wide, and so it kind of forced people to say, "Hey, let's take a different approach." Because I remember growing up seeing the same pictures on the wall every year during Black History Month.
I know. And that was the one thing, and I will just say that Ms. Parson has done a fabulous job, and she'll share that with you. I'm not stepping over you.
No, ma'am.
But I must
say.
Yes,
you will. You will do it, everybody.
No, but I'm just saying the beauty of the competitions. One of the things in that competition was a student saying, I have a dream, is not going to be considered. Not because that is not wonderful, but everybody says that. You want their creativity.
Well, it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. The history is deeper than that. And actually, I kind of push back that we have allowed Black History Month to be kind of coined in I have a dream. And the history is so much deeper and richer than that. And people really don't even know that speech. They just know
the parts of
that part.
And the kids here in Rome feel like, and I know from being at the high school during the One Book, Many Voices, which was wonderful with 10th graders, fabulous. The only thing they know about in Rome, and that's where we talked about that, was the sit-in. That is all.
And that was just recently taught, though.
And that came about after all this. These other folk had laid the groundwork for.
So, Ms. Parsons, I mean, this wasn't a... I'm quite sure you had to do some research on your own. You had to do some, how do I make this happen?
Yes.
So what was that process like?
Well, I contacted the schools and said, you know, I need a representative from each school to form a committee because we need to do this together because it was going to be a massive undertaking. And I contacted Ms. Vaughn, and of course she had a lot of great resources because it's hard to find the local history just looking online and whatnot. So I contacted the museum, I went to the library, I contacted Ms. Vaughn, and so I got lots of several texts like Marco's Darko's book, Morel Darko's book, Where the Rivers Meet, a history of African Americans in Rome, and
I don't even know if a lot of people realize that. I mean, I'm quite sure the book sold, but that's a hidden treasure. I mean, that's a book that is a good starting point if you have no knowledge.
Right. And that was our starting point. And then we just kind of went from there, and then Ms. Vaughn was able to orchestrate getting some of the local people to come in and speak to different schools and at the high school because they do have stories to tell in history.
And actually, I'm going to challenge Ms. Vaughn because when Black History Month is over, some of those people need to continue, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I know Butch, I know of Butch. I've met with Butch. Me and Butch have been involved, but I didn't know he was a baseball player.
Right.
And I've sat with him, ate with him. We've attended functions, and we always, and when I'm around him in jail, I'm always taking in all of this information. But I didn't even know that about him, and that's why I'm saying that is so needed. Because I would like to think that I'm somewhat engaging. I like to find out about people, but it was a lot of stuff that I didn't know in that the information you put together about people I know.
That's funny because some of the presenters said on that day that they learned information about various other people. You had Nat Hudson.
I didn't know that.
Retired from the Buccaneers and had played for.
See, I knew some of the other NFL players around this area, but I didn't know that.
Right. And he had run camps for young guys around here. So, you know, just bringing in a mixture. It wasn't just people in education, but you had people from all walks of life.
That was good.
The kids weren't they?
They were intrigued by it, yes.
They were.
Well, I tend to think, you know, I love NPR, and I was listening to Hidden Brain the other day, and they kept going back to expectations. You know, children tend to, you know, the expectations set for them. If you set low expectations, that's what you'll get. But I want to thank you, Ms. Parsons, because I think sometimes it's so easy to do Black History Month without doing it. It is so easy to do it without doing it. True. And as an educator, it's very offensive when that happens, when we do it, but we really don't do it. And I think y'all have set a new standard that, you know, you just can't do what we've done. If it's engaging children, then you have to find ways to engage them because kids want to know this information. I think we're in a different generation where kids can appreciate the contributions of everybody.
Right.
And locally, because now you can go actually talk to some of these people. I mean, you can actually go sit down with some of these people and hear firsthand a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And I just think I haven't seen it before from a system. Somebody may do it, but I haven't seen it done by another system.
Well, thank you. We felt it was important. We thought it was very important that the kids understand the local history because there is a lot of local history, and that was important. So.
Now, Ms. Vaughn, I know you, because I've been fortunate with the 100, and I've been able to learn some of this, but for instance, like we had a newspaper in Rome.
Right.
No, we actually had business, and the newspaper was here for a while.
Right. Yeah. And you know, that's something I wanted to get a picture of, but I was unable to. But the point being, yes, there was a Black newspaper. And you know, it's funny because you hear of the Atlanta Daily World, which is in Atlanta. During the time that I grew up, on Saturday, and Elliot Cunningham's mom would deliver that paper. And I remember so specifically because my mom and aunt had the beauty shop, my uncle had, and she'd deliver that paper there. And do you realize there was a special section they'd run in there It was like Rome society, you know. It was funny, not funny, but it was good. People looked to read what was going on, what were people doing, but it was African American or blacks, as we talked about.
Well, we're gonna have to take a short break, but we'll be right back. And when we come back, we'll talk more about this new program that Rome City Schools actually implemented this Black History Month. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
My college offers classes that meet my educational and career goals,
with opportunities outside the classroom,
where the faculty know me by name.
My college can prepare me for my career.
I can earn an associate's degree and transfer credits toward my bachelor's.
My college is a state college within the university system of Georgia.
My college is affordable.
It's close to home.
My college has online opportunities.
It's where excellence begins.
We are
GHC, Georgia Highlands College.
Welcome back to Community Watch, and we're talking with Mr. Esther Vaughn and Miss Cassie Parsons about a program they've actually had this month throughout Rome City Schools, a new way, I want to say a different way of looking at Black History Month. And the focus was on local history and local people who have made history. And I think, Ms. Parsons, the key about that to me is so powerful is that we have a lot of first blacks in Rome, where every city county has their own. But the fact that we have some and so many of them are still living, and we as a community don't recognize that, especially the Black community, because there's a lot of stuff within those bios that I didn't know. And I've learned a tremendous amount since I've been in the 100 and had a mentor like the Godfather, John Stevenson and J.L. Vaughn. But the importance of that for our students, that you were able to, I know y'all had a program, y'all had like 22 speakers, I think, at the high school, that you actually connected these students with living history, that they can actually talk to these people about their living experience. So the fact that J.L. Vaughn and John Stevenson, my mentors, they drunk quote unquote colored water. They had the colored water fountain. They had the whites only water fountain. I mean, I can only think about that. But to speak to people, to actually ask them questions about life at that time, and it be local, the restaurants you had to go to the back of the door with and things of that nature, and how they overcame a lot of that stuff and became first in great ways. I mean, that's to me, it's powerful.
It is. It's very powerful. And we wanted that history to be there for the kids because it's so important. And it does bring it to life because it's in their community, so they can really get a better understanding of it.
Ms. Vaughn, now in just looking at some of the notes, one thing I've realized is that baseball used to be huge in the African American community. That it's almost all but disappeared now. But clearly, there was an era where baseball dominated. I know your husband had the opportunity to go play and play for all this. Butch Haynes actually was a great in the Negro Leagues. I mean, so clearly baseball used to be a thriving part of our history here in Rome. That's gone now.
It is.
And I didn't realize that until looking at some of that information.
It is. And it was a big deal. I mean, what I hear, now I didn't even know about those. I hear there were teams that they called Fairbanks and something else.
Your husband played with James Brown.
I don't know.
See, I know that.
But needless to say, it was, very interesting how that could. But if I may, Mr. Shropshire, mention one thing, because Rome is such a wonderful place to live. It really is, for diversity. But I don't want this to be a slap in the face for people who have moved to Rome and been the first. For example, many people have moved here because of their jobs. They were the first person with a particular company or corporation. We are not trying to downplay you. We want these people to know you are welcome, and we're going to move maybe later at another time, highlighting other people, but our whole focus right now was on people who were born, people who sat in a classroom. It might have been a segregated classroom, but it was a classroom in a Rome City school, just like those kids are sitting
right now
at Rome High. So you can understand, gee, wherever I am, I can make it, and I can do bigger and better things.
I think we all can appreciate that, you know, that because I'm not a native to Rome.
Right.
I'm not from Rome.
Right.
I mean, I think y'all got some issues in Rome, but I'm not from Rome.
This is a very positive.
But I think we can appreciate that because every community have their own native-born local people who have made a contribution to that community. So you know the question, what's next? Because you've created to me you created a standard that I can see students anticipating engaging activities like this next year. I mean, because if you give someone, wham, here you go. For those students that's still here next year, I can see them saying, hey, what are we doing?
And we have plans to meet with the committee in the spring to talk about next year's plans, thinking more on the realms of some of the younger people or people that maybe have moved into Rome and been a first, but not necessarily born in Rome and raised in Rome, but black people that are here in Rome making a difference now. So that's kind of the track we're going to go on for next year.
Younger folks that would fall, you'd fall in the younger folk. Not from Rome, but you've been here long enough, you've worked here.
I do my share.
He has.
I do my share. But Ms. Parsons, let's just take this and kind of run with it. Because not only, I mean, we started with African American History, Black History Month, and believe it or not, this is one reason why this is needed. I was talking to a student, and he was like, so when does Black History Month start? When does it end? I'm thinking, are you serious? He was like, yeah, I never really was into that stuff until recently. So there is a need. Yeah. Clearly, we can't assume that everybody's getting it, even black kids are getting it. But just now looking at how successful this seems to have been, you easily could take this and parlay this into other groups. Easily, you know, other groups, the Jewish community, the Italian community. You just have a lot of different communities in Rome that exist every day that we really don't talk about. We just kind of assume and we kind of all just go about our way. But you easily, even the fact that we've had quite a few women that have been first, Chief Snow, and a lot of the banks, even we talk about banking in Africa for African Americans, at one time I know we had like 3 black VP females in banking. And so it's so many other ways you could go with this. I'm saying, so to me, and it doesn't have to be from the school, but it clearly has opened up a platform, let's say, that the community could use to engage all of us more to learn more about our community in and of itself.
Right, and the diversity within it.
Yeah.
And I do hope that we can expand and do that. I would like to do that.
Well, y'all go ahead. I mean, y'all, that's a lot of work. I mean, I like to attend. But what has the response been so far? Because I know y'all had an event at the high school. How was that received by the students?
It's been very positive. The children were very much engaged with the speakers that were there that day, and I think they really got a lot out of that. And I know that some speakers have gone to other elementary schools and spoken in the middle school, and the students there have been excited about that as well and engaged with that as well too. So
I know at the alternative school and the Phoenix Learning Center, the schools were fortunate to have black organizations come in, parlaying off that, and bringing about 5 different organizations and just watching the kids engage and ask questions, and then to have people who have been, like we was fortunate to have Miss Hamilton. She was one of the first on your list, and Great Berry. To have different people, Miss Whiteside, to have different people there to actually answer questions, and just watching the kids. And it's amazing sometimes when we give kids the opportunity, they will perform, but they ask a lot of great questions. So clearly that was the impetus that was used for that program.
Right.
And so I'm just wondering, what has the feedback been, I guess, for the principals? Because it does require some work, some coordinating, and it requires some effort. I mean, and let's not be in the age of this political campaign. You know, we still got a lot of people out there that are not all about diversity. Right. We clearly got people that's not on that diversity bandwagon. So, but Has it been a positive, overall positive experience for you yourself?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes, I have loved it. I've completely loved it. It's great to hear the history local to Rome. And the principals have been very open to this and excited about it. Dr. Brown from the high school called me and told me thank you. And he should have called Miss Vaughn. She was the one that really coordinated all the people to get there.
This has been a group activity,
but I mean,
a team.
He was so pleased with how things went at the high school that day. So I've gotten a lot of positive response.
Now, are you from Rome?
No, I live in Cartersville.
Oh, so you like me? You
I commute.
A transplant.
Yeah, I'm saying we work here, but you know. But Ms. Vaughn, now going back, because, and I want to, not to deviate too much, we don't have much time, but Rome, like every place in America, has come a long way. I mean, clearly I'm looking at the sign right now, the Partridge. I remember the tales that, you know, you couldn't go into the Partridge in the front, you had to go around to the back and things of that nature. But as a educator, you've been a first in a lot of things. What did this mean to you personally? Because I know you've been involved forever in this kind of battle.
I was, but as I said to the kids, I was not involved in the sit-in personally because I wasn't allowed to be. My folks said, There was just me, and they didn't want nothing to happen to me. So, no, seriously. But I was not involved. But
you've been involved in so much.
I reaped the benefits of everything that everyone else has. Once the people had gone in, my husband went on a Sunday evening with a group to go in the Partridge. And hey, that was cool. But I truly was not. And it's so interesting because as we're saying this about Rome, and I always bring up Atlanta because my sophomore year in high school here was when the sit-ins took place. I believe that's the year. My sophomore year in college was when Martin Luther King was killed. And that has stayed with me so. It has been, all of that has all come together as one. Because I had the pleasure of being, well, not pleasure when someone's dead, but of being with the group at the public service. You know, you Morehouse men were at Ebenezer for the main service, but then they used college students as ushers and so forth on the campus. I was there on the campus and just didn't realize, being young from Rome, you know, and I realized the day that it happened, I wanted to come home, but I couldn't come to Rome, Georgia, because I knew if a cab driver came over there, he'd be killed. So, you know, it's all come around full circle, everything from what's happened in Rome to being involved throughout. And that's been very meaningful for me.
All right, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Black History Month program that Rome City Schools sponsored this year. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Community Watch, and today we was joined by Ms. Cassie Parsons from Rome City Schools, the Literacy Coordinator, and Ms. Esther Vaughn, and we was talking about this program. We don't have much time, ladies, but I want to thank y'all for being here and thank y'all for the program. And I look forward to hearing more about this because I think the response from what I'm hearing has been very positive and very engaging, and I'm quite sure not only did the students enjoy it, but the people who presented enjoyed it. And so hopefully we'll see that momentum carry on and we can learn more about this history, because if we're not careful, quite a few of those people won't always be with us pretty soon, and we'll lose that. So thank you for being with us this week on Community Watch, and always we'll see you next time.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you.